Right. I usually do.
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording. But mic lock button is on. Don't have to lock mic off.
I usually do driving your own vision on Tuesday, but I'm not going to do it for a few weeks because I've decided to change the whole thing and just do a whole NLP course instead, because it's going to come back to driving your own vision. So I want to kind of steer people away from that and do a whole NLP course, which people keep asking me out. Anyways, it's going to be very short. It's a mini series. It's only 5 episodes long, but it'll come back, and the episodes will be an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, depending. No, it won't do that long. Anyway, I thought I would do the Creative Thoughts podcast just until we get this course sorted, because I'm actually doing a live over on Facebook, which is Driving Your Own NLP series, which is doing on Facebook, not on YouTube. Because the reason why is because a lot of people ask, right? And I believe a lot of people are... a lot of people are pointing me towards Terence McKenna, which, is the whole thing. And I think that, people like Terence McKenna and Timothy O'Leary and those people kind of know how to strengthen, like they talk about strength. Excuse me. They talk about strengthening your mental health. So, anyway, but this episode is more of a Q&A. So I am doing an episode on automation, which is going to be episode 3. But this is just general questions. So the first question is, hey Stephen, this has come from Martha Edwards. Do you think that automation is lazy? Yes, it is, but it depends on... It's a bit of a political answer. I always give political answers. It depends. It depends. I mean, we're using our own... my other company, which is XCOM, which is getting changed to Telecom Solutions. Tele Solutions, yeah. Telesolutions, because we do solutions. We still sell phones, but we're more on solutions. We're more on selling solutions than phones. Because people don't want to buy phones now. They want to buy solutions. And they want to buy systems. And it's what systems you sell. But you get a lot of... The things that, you get a lot of these companies that run call centers, but you can't run something all the time. If you are a businessman, you're trying to run 3 or 4 businesses, like my building company, my advertisement company, my building company, and my phone company. And the phone company's grown larger than life. The building company is quite big, but it's not, And so when you need a automation service quickly, then ChatGPT is good, but you have to know how to control it. And a lot of people that use I don't know how to use ChatGPT personally, but I've got a couple of software engineers that do. And the issue with ChatGPT is it analyzes data very, very quickly, but it feeds off other people's data. And it does not, right? It does not send it does not send information to advertisers. Instead, it sends information to the people that run ChatGPT. They then send that off to other companies. So that's where they're making their big time. And so, I think it's something to be wary of. But it's nothing to be worried about. I mean, people are worried about like people's data, but I did a massive thing. I've done a massive whole load of research which I've still not got to the bottom of. I mean, the government do want to control people, but at the end of the day, they're selling a little bit of control. In fact, it's the companies who sell the control to the government. It's the companies that sell the control and fear to the government who then sell it onto the journalists. So it's I'm not getting into that. But we're making our own chat service, which uses a open source email provider. And that's another thing as well. ChatGPT was like originally it was open source because if you remember, it killed. Well, no, it didn't kill cyberclans, but it was a big. Well, ChatGPT was one of the things that. Like, I don't know if you've known, but the cyberclans article that was written by John Hertz. Did you see that blog article that was written about ChatGPT? If you haven't, then, well, I'll do it in a YouTube post because it's quite interesting on how they were going to put, say, I think it was the people that was going to do cyberclans. I think they were going to put a third into ChatGPT. But the issue with it is it's, like a lot of these things, like, it's not open source. What we're doing is open source, so we're doing our own adverts, we're doing everything else, and we do not control other people. We have to put this on our website, that all our services that we put out there, we do not control other people. You may see cookies on our website, but they're not our cookies, they're cookies from bloody Wix, because I don't pay for a service at the moment. Anyway, that's but crumbs. I mean, it's a big question about what I think about automation. Don Williams says, do you think that advertisers have to market or understand the market? Yes. You have to understand, everybody has to understand the market. I mean, we were doing marketing. But the reason why we don't do marketing is because it's not because it's a lot of hard work. That's a load of bollocks. The reason we don't do marketing is because we're not a big company. So we can't do consultation and advertising and marketing and all the rest of it. Maybe one day we'll do all the rest of it. I personally like doing consultation. There is a big project which I'm doing, but it's more a it was supposed to be a heritage project, but because it's, when you mention heritage, it upsets a lot of people. But anyway, that's another, I still do consultation, but then consultation does lots of work and so on and so forth. You need other companies to do consultation. But you can do advertising through consultation. You just have to be very clever of it, And of course, if you know that it's going to get more leads and all the rest of it. What's going on with the Cherish? Right, so, oh dear. Well, it's to do with the cost of living and the cost of working. There's two, we spent our money unwisely yet again, right? I'm going to go to when Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. There you go. By this way, it's going to be a two-parter video because there's a lot of questions. A lot of questions. So, and I'm doing this every week. I'm doing a Q&A every week. I'm not doing this, the creative thoughts I've just put back because I've got other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about automation and ChatGPT again. Crumbs. So basically, once upon a time, there was a company called MindMob. I'm doing a story time properly in another video, but there was a company called MindMob, right? And we wanted a brand new look and feel and all of the rest of it. And we actually got, at the time, we got given 250 quid. Not by the Make It Workshop. That's a big, massive rumour, false rumour. I don't know, there's still, on our very old website, on a website, well, I'm turning it into a portfolio website, but our very old MindMob website, there is a blog post on there that says, and there was a post which somebody put on the Make It Workshop website, I'm not going to say who, which says, MindMob were donated 250 quid. Bollocks! We had to buy, right? We didn't swap anything. We didn't get 50 quid given to us either. What happened was, I swapped a toy computer for an office machine. I paid 50 quid for it, right? I paid 50 quid British pounds, right? Now, I don't tell this story for good reason, right? Because, the financial part is basically means bagger all. But the mistake, instead of...
Mic lock.
Yes, instead of...
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Button. Is on. Double tap to lock mic off.
Instead of... What's name doing? I bin that computer off. Instead of waiting 10 years to buy another computer. And, so I just... bought this computer, went ahead and bought this computer, and... as you'll know, it's the one that I did all my projects with. It's the one that I did all my adverts with, did CyberClan stuff with, and that. Now looking forward to today, I'm using the money for real projects. Well, I just bought the, this time last year, I bought the VTech Genio laptop, and I've not looked back. The issue I had with the Ubuntu machine was the graphics card and stuff. So we ditched it, bought a new laptop, and life is good. But I'm buying a new external hard drive, which I definitely need for other projects.
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording. Mic lock. Button. Is on. Finish recording. Button.
Yeah, I'm using for the projects and radio stuff because I've got a terabyte external hard drive, but I'm also worried about losing stuff, So 2 terabytes will do me good. The old terabyte hard drive I'll just use. What I probably might do is back everything up onto the 2 terabyte hard drive and then just use the terabyte hard drive. I think that's what I'm gonna make the decisions when I get the new external hard drive, but I definitely need enough memory for recording, because the little external hard drive I got, well, I didn't get it actually, my old Mac, when that died, it's actually my old Apple Mac hard drive that I now have as an external hard drive. So but again, I might just use that to back applications and stuff on. I might just back everything up from that onto the Yeah, because I need backups of stuff, and then I need stuff that I'm working on, and so on. So, yeah, you need 2 hard drives to survive anyway. I'm coming, Neil!
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Button. Mic lock. Mic lock.
So, yeah, okay, so my next question comes from Don Crisp, and he says, do you think your YouTube videos will be... Sorry, how do you do YouTube videos as a visually impaired / blind person? And also, how does life affect you? Well, I get this question a lot, and life doesn't really affect me much. Obviously, being an Aspie is very different because you know your life is in a box. So, but as a visually impaired person doing videos, I've got a bit of sight, so the useful vision. You're using a camera, making sure that the camera's up, picking everything. It's a good, I have a good phone. Somebody gave me a VTech Genio kiddie zoom camera, which gets used in lots of work. Which reminds me, I need to dig out because I've got stuff that I'm using it for. And it's got a big screen on it. Well, the screen isn't massive with it being VTech, but it's big enough. Editing, I use iMovie. So all of Apple's products seem to be quite accessible. And iMovie, I like the way that everything's in a nice little timeline. I love timelines when working. So yeah, there's they call it timeline porn, don't they? When there's but yeah. So that's how I do videos. And then the upload to YouTube process is really good because it's really easy to upload a video. So yeah. Tina O'Clynn asks, in the last episode, you spoke about John Hurds. What's your issue with him? Right, I don't have issues with him, right? I don't have an issue with him. It's just he was really, really difficult to work with. And a person who's like so against social media is now putting himself out there on social media.
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Button. Is on. Double tap.
So, yeah. It's very difficult to explain. I mean, my issue isn't really with, John Hurds and Don Atkins. It's with Philip Coods, which a lot of people know, and kind of aware of it. But anyway, so that's the thing that, I don't really know what happened with Indietronics during time with when CyberClans was running. I just know the time afterwards, which, because Indietronics was a great company, but yeah. And I think a lot of what was going on was more political. They wanted to have a license over everything. They wanted rights over everything. They wanted money over everything. John Hurds wanted a percentage. He was a president of the company, and but the thing is, he was against social media, and then went on Twitter afterwards saying he was reappealing everything. But then he was begging his company to file for bankruptcy. He went over to Wales to get a studio closed. And they emptied his office, and then they got somebody to. The thing was, Don Atkins got his lawyers to tip him off, but that was Don Atkins, and Atkins just took the money and ran. John Hurds did get a lot of the money, but Don Atkins got more. And then there was the famous picture which John Hurds took of Don Atkins's bum. And then there was just Don Atkins was completely, he was very anal in all aspects of the words. But that's because he had a lot of money. He was tipping off his lawyers, so John Hurds could get what he wanted. He was taking a percentage. But it's like Don Atkins in later blog posts, he just said, it's like, he said your company may be going down, but I'm not going down with you, something along those lines. But hey, I don't feel sorry for John Hurd. He's he gets, right, 45 grand a month. 45 grand a month. All right, every month. Right? And Don Atkins still owes him £100,000. So I don't feel sorry for him at all where money's concerned. And they're both pretty anal to each other. I've told this story many times, and a lot of it's come out. And there's people calling them out. I've called them out. It's a big thing. There's actually John Hurd, well, Cyber Talk, as it's now known, because everyone just called out John Hurd's left, right, and centre. Because actually, Don Atkins, they should be calling him out too, because they're both bullshitters. And, and they were very responsible for driving Indietronics into bankruptcy. But like I said, I don't know what happened after CyberClans. I don't know what was going on during. I just know what we did, and frankly, they never ever bought a license off us. They just didn't pay us for the rights, or they didn't give us the correct number of royalties. So that's why we outsourced what we did. But it would be nice to have our name on the browser after working our asses off on the background for the browser. And we also did the banner art. Well, we didn't personally do it, but we had someone work for us and we tipped them off for the banner art. So, yeah, they didn't give a shit about teamwork. It was all about me, I. I mean, when you've got a nice big mansion, maybe they should do a Carol Vorderman and live in a van. Maybe they might be doing that pretty soon. Hey, but the crap never pays itself off in the end. And those people have to look the filthy rich in the eye. Anyway, before I get deep and philosophical about it all, I don't give a crap for John Hurts. There you go. There you go. I've gone all around the houses just to say all that, but there you go. Tracy O'Toole. I was one of the hackers from CyberClans. Can you tell me of where all the rest of them went? Yeah, Discord. And they've got a pretty good server going, but I don't know what's going with the hackers group, to be fair. Sorry, I'm just pretty tired. I don't know why, because I've done crap all day. Timostean asks, what are your thoughts on internet businesses, online businesses? I don't know, because the issue that I see is technically working from. I mean, back in the day, you could have been a little business working from, you'd have your little Facebook page, and posting, and then people would follow comments, and then you would DM people on the site, and then they would probably throw money at you, depending. But now, it's different, because these people have found what people do, and they're like, hey, we want to make our money off you. I mean, people say you should never Google yourself, but I say you should, because if an employer's going to Google you, why shouldn't you? There you go. And you can also find, it's strange, when you find who's actually trolling your posts, that's the most scary thing. But to be honest, it needs to be done. Anyways. Don Ackelburn says, asks, what's happened to Magic Silver? And you say it's going to make a comeback. It is. But we're also doing Geek Supply again, which we're going to talk about. We're going to leave that to Magic Silver in podcast. We're doing that this week also. So I'm glad you reminded me. Right. Yeah, he did. Yeah. Tim Wade's wrote a book on cyberclans. But the reason it didn't get published is because it had all the original source code, which was unauthorized, and there was a court case going on at the time, so he couldn't publish it. And he's published they published a late one and blurred out all the source code. He's not really someone who we spoke with, so I can't speak for him. Blaze Whitman asks, do you miss the CyberClans forums? Yes and no. I mean, it's like these media groups on Facebook or whatever. You just spend your life scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you never get anything done. You know, I mean, the way we do things now, and technically when I'm working, I'll read a lot of stuff outside of work or the end of work, to be honest, because, you know, scrolling through stuff all day really annoys me, you know. And I like using Mighty Networks because I can get more done in the office. I can see what's going on in the office instead of what's going on in everybody else's lives. So, yeah. But to fully answer your question, I do miss the joystick forum, which they had some like really good people in there. Because you know there's people in other groups, but then it's like the Hackers Forum were more into building and building mods for things, and then there was the Toontown Forum, which was just like building mods for Toontown, and it's like working off the back of like MMOs and a lot of those great people, they've gone to an application called is it Sploder, and they're doing some like really cool like level design work, and that's what I know, but the rest of them I'm not sure. I know Dan, we got some news that Dan Clemel was actually building some code for a slot machine. So where he ran it, I'm not totally sure, but there's a lot of people that are building slot machines and slot machine emulators, and actually you can run those emulators on actual machines if they boot up properly. Anyway, that's a whole other subject, which I'm not qualified to talk about. I love reading and watching other people talk about it, but I mean, it's good like having actual emulators of slot machines or frick machines. When people actually build emulators of them, it's great because It helps people who have an addiction. It's, they're not actually winning actual real money, but it's it's that feeling that they're winning something. There's one fruit machine emulator, because I had fruit machine emulators. I've still got the disc, but I don't think they'll run now. But I've got handicap, but I can't think. It was Madhouse. That is a very addictive fruit machine to play. I remember playing that for hours. That and Pugwash, and just getting the wins, absolutely thrilling. Now, a lot of these emulators, they give you that thrill without having to, what's the name do? But there was talk of using, counters to put in a special thing. They were going to build like a controller that you put counters in. It's stupid like that. It never came off because the actual workings of it wasn't going to happen. Another thing that they were going to build is a meter that you plug in to your machine, and it then emulates the actual feel. But in actual fact, you could buy an arcade cabinet, download a Raspberry. You could get an arcade cabinet, put a Raspberry Pi inside it, and then download all these fruit machines and then play them on the Raspberry Pi. Map all the buttons and. I saw a guy on YouTube that was building. Get this. He built a fruit machine cabinet. It was a mini fruit machine cabinet, and then put a tablet inside it, and then ran all of the configurations. So when he pressed buttons on there, it would work in the emulator. So it's it's not something that I know of, but something that but you actually get into arcades and stuff, like all different routes to arcade builds and stuff, arcade machine builds. There was a guy that was talking on that. But anyway, I'm going to leave all that to the Magic Silver Room, because I got some interesting stuff that I want to talk about the Polybius machine. And there was an April Fool the other day, someone saying that they'd found parts to the Polybius machine, or ROMs to the Polybius machine, something stupid like that. Right, I'm taking 2 more questions, and then I'm going to talk about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT, which we spoke of earlier. So the next question by Phil O'Connor says, "Hey Stephen, you should run a course on how to talk in front of lots of people. You do it really well. Keep up the good work." Do you know, personally, right? I have been doing this for a long time, well before YouTube. So I love the sound of my own voice, but I also love being recorded. So once that big red button is pushed, hey. But you take that further. I mean, before I started Muggle Radio, I was doing shows in the basement, and everybody driving past, I thought, hey, they could be listening to this. And that sort of thought went on, and I carried that thought on. You don't know who's listening to your show. If you're doing an online show, you don't know who's listening, and you share that out, you message hundreds of people, and you promote it well. You're gonna get a good show. In fact, my shows from as of this week are going on to Mixcloud, but I'm doing a lot of hard work, and I've got plans, but those plans at the moment are, what depends of it. As a course, technically, I don't know how I could teach that sort of course. Because, you see, the problem is you get a room full of nervous people who don't like... You get someone to get to the front of the class and talk to a lot of people. They don't know how to do it. I stood at the front of the class once. I got up. This was at college. I got up and stood at the front of the class, and I talked to them for 10 minutes on on how to just on how to put effects in the right place. I had to talk the tutor through it, but I was talking the class through it. That you would reverse, then add loads and loads of reverb on, and lengthen the reverb and time stretch it and slow it down, all the rest of it. And then you sample that effect and then put stuff on top. So it's, that's what I was talking about. But then I did a talk about Led Zeppelin. I did a whole heavy metal presentation for my tutors. So I'm not frightened to talk about what I love. I've done talks of quite a few things. But it's what people are going to take away from that, I think. I mean, I've got my driving your own vision course, but if you want me to do a podcasting one, I'll do podcasting. But the thing is, I am not, what you call it, I'm not a teacher. You've got to understand, I don't teach, I do, I don't teach. Because the education system has let me down in such a big way. I show people, there's a difference. I show people, I don't teach. There you go. I'd rather people be interested in what you do than walk away from it knowing, what you do is perfect. So I train. There's a difference between training and teaching. Teaching is when you give people a worksheet and say, copy from this worksheet, and so on. That's not the way I do things. The way I do things is, right, okay, you take from this worksheet. If you can't, I'll give, we break down, and then we copy from what you've broken down. So, because I'm still learning. Well, we're all learning, but I guess it's amplified on that. You see, education is being used as a weapon for kids. I talked about that in last night's live stream. But anyway, Julian Girth asks, spirituality, imagination, surrealism equals all of that. Yeah, it does, because you're rebuilding. You're not thinking about what shapes do what or whatever. It's what it means to you, and that's where, we've learned, actually, just through listening to Timothy O'Leary, that psychedelic experiences are, you're opening gateways to the mind, but you don't necessarily need psychedelic drugs for that, But what you do need is to go into the experience with an open mind, knowing that you're going to open a gateway, knowing that you're going to see, it's like you could be walking around the mall and then, suddenly you see a unicorn. But you have to question, is this real? I wouldn't normally see a unicorn. Wow. But it's like, it's the whole thing. It's when you're in the dream realm, or when you're going into it lucidly, you have to ask what questions. And this is how computers work. I think going into the dream realm, going into the dream realm is like going into the computer program. It's questioning what is or what isn't there. But on a spiritual level, it's what's really, really up there. So it's turning the dream world inside out. It's turning the reality inside out. And going, okay, well, this is there, or this isn't there, or this might be there. So it's believing anything could be possible, anything could be real. If you want it to be real, it will be there. And this goes back to the people who our elders who have come before us. They know what's real because they've experienced it. But that you have to ask and experience. And you'll have that experience. It annoys me in church when people start speaking in tongues and someone collapses, and you just think, this isn't spiritual. They've put themselves into a state of trance and lost balance. Why? It's not real. a real spiritual experience has to happen, you have to feel this thing together. It doesn't, it's, healing experiences are different, but other experiences aren't. So sometimes I do get annoyed when I don't feel something, and people say, "Oh, Stephen, we did feel that," and I'm like, "Well, I didn't. I'm sorry, I didn't feel it." But then there are things that I do feel, and when everybody feels it, it's like, whoa, why did you, well, you've got to remember that, when I was little, I was a child, and when we all heard something in the church, everybody heard it, and there wasn't just like one person's experience. But when you all share that experience together, when you experience that experience together, you don't share that experience, you experience that together, you're all in it, then it's like, wow. And then you really understand. There's things I've experienced and technically those experiences that I've had are very how can I put them? Personal, on so many different levels. But it's I do feel something new, and that was a very big question. I think though that people in our church are starting to see that without imagination you can't have spiritualization. And you can't teach people to imagine. You can't teach people how to care. You can't teach people how to love or hate. You've either got it or you haven't. There you go. And that's why the government are failing on teaching people how to hate. But anyway, we're getting to the whole political aspect of it, but you can see what... you can see where I'm coming from. If you can't, then I do deeply apologise. Right, I'm going to get on to talking about automation. And automation in the workplace, my personal thoughts of it. And I think that Automation should be used when it's needed. We've got our own chat services, not very big, but they'll reel in what we want. We've got an email provider, and we've got an outsource, but you use 2 chat servers, that's how you do it, 2 chat servers, outgoing and ingoing, and then a provider. So then we tell, this is what you do, this is how you build your own AI, right? You tell, so it's input, you tell the computer what you want it to send out, and then you teach the system. You let the system talk to itself, like what I do a lot of the time. So you let it build its imaginary friends if you want. Haha, LOL. But really, that's how you teach it, and then you send it out, build other systems, build other networks, whatever, and it sees other networks, talks to the networks, brings it back. You might say something as simple as, hello, what's your favorite food? It might come back with sausages and beans or something strange like that, right? Now, like ChatGPT, if we wanted it to write a blog post and send it out, we would say, write a blog post on sausages and beans. And it would write a blog post on sausages and beans, and it would bring it back to us. And then we could go, no, we want to change a little bit of this. Or, no, we want to post this. So, you have to make the decision before you send it out. But yes, it is lazy because you are getting a bot. You're training a machine to do everything for you. And I actually dreamt of this 10 years ago, of computers writing stuff there were things that were doing this. IBM already had computers that were typing pages and pages of documents all by themselves. But that's because they had people they had these pens. They had a machine that had pens inside it, and they were going across a piece of paper at the speed of, I can't remember how many, and then it was feeding that then to all these punch cards are going straight in. All these cards are getting punched in at the speed of knots. IBM were doing this, and they ran this test, and computers are writing these programs themselves. In fact, the classic version of an AI was where someone cut up a deck of cards, threw it up in the air, jumbled up the deck, reran the program in a random order, and the computer just knew what it was doing, but they shadowed it. They had a computer that was running it in the right order and a computer that was running it in the wrong order. So a bit like clockwise and anti-clockwise. But I think the issue that we're going to see with artificial intelligence is that us just stepping back and letting the computers do their thing. I think that's a kind of I don't know, there's all kinds of things. It's like there's gonna be the tripping on the wrong cable moment. That's always gonna happen. But people aren't going to see that way, and they're going to try and see something else another way. And they won't be blaming the system, they'll be blaming the people that run that system. Which technically they'll be going, well, hold on a second, there was a problem. And a lot of these software engineers know that the blame's going to be on them if any, these little teething problems occur. Which is why they have to be so fast, and they have to be so on the ball. Pardon the pun. And that's where they have to be. Otherwise, their life's depending on it, and their job's depending on it. They're getting paid thousands of pounds. But you've got to remember, with automation, you have to get out what you put in. A lot of people, even with ChatGPT, for example, you get ChatGPT to write you a whole article on beans, right? Then it comes out with, I didn't know this, I didn't know that. Where's its sources? It's like, well, hold on, this is a load of gibberish. It can write half that article for you, but it can't do the whole entire article. ChatGPT, though, is able to do, a child's homework. You know what's going to happen in the future, don't you? Kids won't learn but then again, you're going to have to teach them, right, okay, we want you to write, your homework tonight is to write 5 articles on electric fish, right? But we want you to use ChatGPT, because ChatGPT will solve the problem, right? When teachers see that you can do that, that's going to be like, wow. It's like, there was an episode, I think, was it Arthur, where Francine does is it Arthur does all of Francine's home? I can't remember, but it's one of those issues. Hey, but kids used to get jobs, back in the day. There was a whole business of someone going out and getting, there'd be one, that kid in the school that would do everybody's homework. Yeah. I remember a friend once who, he would braille my answers. I would tell him the answers of the question, and he would braille it all. But I hated homework. And I hate the education system, like, taking work home with you. I never saw the point. Never ever saw the point. I remember teachers telling me, well, we have to do paperwork at home. I'm like, really? But it should be, I mean, with schools, they shouldn't force, once you get past, I say the age of 15, the learning should be up to you. You know? Okay, you want to learn about being a rock star? I mean, Jack Black, right? Has anyone watched The School of Rock? Right? There's that great moment when he shocks the kids. These kids, right? They have had their eyes opened wide. Right? They don't understand that the reason they go to school is because the system wants them to be accountants, politicians, blah, blah, blah. You know, they do classical music. I thought that was a bit of a... They went over the mark with that, right? But the thing is, these kids, they didn't want to learn that. They didn't want to be like their parents. They wanted to be rock stars. They wanted this thing, but of course they couldn't. They were all in denial. And so Jack Black, who's Dewey Finn in the film, he's saying, okay, you guys want to learn something? Right? He tears up all the merits. There's that, aggression and violence and shit. And then he tells the people about the man, right? There's like that I am the man thing. But anyway, that's a subject for another day. But he talks about like how the man ruins things. His day's been ruined and everything. He's got a hangover, and now he's teaching kids about rock and roll and MTV and punk rock and all the rest of it. And then he sees how these kids in the music class, and then he gets all these kids to start playing music. But I love how he teaches these kids about rock appreciation and rock this and rock that and rock that and the other. And I thought, just imagine if they actually had a school like that. But it's the education system doesn't... It'd be great if one day my teachers came in and I wish they'd have said to me, right, you want to learn something, Stephen? You want to learn about rock and roll? Okay, today I'm going to teach you 3 chords, form a band. That's your first lesson, all right? In fact, no, first lesson, William S. Burroughs is the god of, he's not the god of rock and roll, he's the writer. He writes all the metal music. Everybody looks up to William S. Burroughs, great poet. Go and look at William S. Burroughs, you'll be blown by his work, right? Not necessarily. But yeah. And in the next lesson, we're going to learn about the hippies. The hippies taught the metalers. Without the hippies, you wouldn't have heavy metal. They brought all the great stuff to it, It was when they realized that the world was such a dark place. You had the Vietnam War. You had the Manson murders. They never taught us anything properly like that at school. Anyway, Jim Jones and Charles Manson. I mean, Jim Jones really ended the hippies. He didn't end hippie culture, but he put fear, the fear of Jones into the hippies was a very weird turnaround. Because this guy opened the minds of the hippies. And this was like after the Second World War. Kids today, they don't get taught about Jonestown Massacre. They learn about that crap later on. And it's so when you talk to them about it, they're like, wow. And my stepdad, I talked about the Jonestown Massacre. They went into the jungle and these people were controlled by Jim Jones. It's like, wow, how do you know about this? Well, I know about it because it was interesting when I heard about it. And of course, Charles Manson, who's another very interesting person, which he is. He's interesting because, but anyway, why am I telling this? Because obviously, it's education, right? Kids get bullshit. They ask a question in class and the teacher draws a line. They don't fully answer it. So you have to figure out later on the real answer. But kids are going to go to Google because they know they're going to get a better answer from Google. A teacher isn't going to give you the full kind of they're not going to explain anything properly because, that would deviate from. So if you've got other questions, you should ask them. And then have them broken down. Because I was that kid for a while. If you don't ask questions, you don't know. It shouldn't be deviating from the system. Because you should be able to learn what you want to learn. I thought when I left junior school and entered senior school, I felt I could ask the teacher anything and the teacher would answer me and I'd go away from it satisfied. Not the case at all. And that stopped me from learning. You see, the teachers don't like to be questioned because that's not their job. We're not there to shut up and listen. We're there to take something from it. And teachers, technically, they bullshit us. All the time. And the system is full of bullshit. It's full of aggression. Teachers, like, now they're walking out on strike, right? What if there's no teachers? What if there's no schools? What if they did it right? School. Imagine this. If they did a school like a rock festival, disguised, and then you get all these kids going because they want to go, not because they have to, because they want to go. There was a woman through lockdown. This is a true story. And there were these kids. They were all being homeschooled. A lot of these kids. And this woman just came up in the field on a campsite. Sorry. She's on the news, this woman. And she started out in lockdown and she had about 15, 16 kids. She ended up with 25 kids. And then 100 to 200 kids. And why? Because these kids wanted to learn, but because she was doing it in a way that they could follow, they were doing it in a way that they weren't forced or anything. These kids are now taking exams. Or they're now going to where they want to go to. That should be school. It should be, okay, do you want to go and learn something? You know? When I was little, and there was a class going on, and if I loved it, hey, I would do it and I would join it, and that's how I learned things. Because people would say, hey, Stephen, you want to do this? Yeah, give it a try, give it a blast. You know? And that's the way it should be. And I think special education shouldn't be like normal education. If a kid can't understand something, they shouldn't be thrown outside the class. You know, that's not the way. I mean, it's just, I think lessons should be done like rock festivals. Because you get more people learning. You know, you would. And people would learn that way. I remember one time I think it was, I can't remember which college it was now.
11:28 p.m.
Oh, crumbs.
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish recording.